Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of my mini car series. So hopefully this new location will work a little better and make the videos a little smoother. I have to change the mount, so we'll see how that goes today. Anyhow, today we're going to be talking about my 1999 and a half Volkswagen Jetta. And the reason I say 1999 and a half is because in 99 Volkswagen decided to have two different models. They had the Mark III Jetta as well as the Mark IV. So if you got the Mark IV, it was the 99 and a half edition, and if you got the 99, you had the old Mark III style. So mine was the Mark IV Jetta, and I bought that car relatively cheap. I think it was about $1,800 and had about 130,000 kilometers. It was a little older, but it was in really clean shape. So because the car was not from Ontario, where they used a lot of salt and stuff on the roads, it was actually a car from, if I remember correctly, from BC. It was quite clean in a sense that there was no rust on it, and whoever previously owned it took care of it. There was no scratches on the car. I had one little dent on the front fender. It was about the size of a, well, us Canadians here we call it a loonie, so it's about a $1 coin, but it was not scraped or anything. It was just kind of dented in, so a simple dent puller would have taken care of that. I just never found the need for it. And so the Jetta was a base model Jetta, so it did have air conditioning, but the windows were crank. I did have keyless entry, power locks, but the mirrors were manual, and it was manual windows as well. Now it came nicely equipped with stuff like ABS and the safety features, so front side airbags, and it drove relatively nicely. I enjoyed the ride on it. I always expect the Volkswagens to have a very firm ride, and this, although it did have a firm ride, it was a comfortable firm ride. So I had no complaints about the ride in that car. The car was also a 5-speed standard, so the transmission was really nice to use. The car came with the 2-liter, 8-valve, single overhead cam engine that produced, I believe, 115 horse, so nothing much in power there. But with the 5-speed and a lot of low-end torque, off the line the car was legitimately quick. And I'm not saying super fast, but it was quick. So say 0 to 30, I'd be willing to take more or less any car out there and not get completely embarrassed or completely destroyed. So that was the Jetta, and performance wise that was the case. Suspension wise it was really nice. Reliability wise, the first thing I had to do was, or that I chose to do, was the timing belt change, and the reason for that was it was never done. The car was a little older. I didn't know how good or bad it was, and it's hard to tell the condition of a timing belt by eye because you don't know exactly what it's been and how dry the rubber is. So I had that changed, and aside from that, I had one other issue with that Jetta, and that was, it was all running fine, and then one day we were dropping our kids off at daycare, going back in the car to go to work, and it wouldn't start. It would crank perfect, it just would not fire. Tried different things, no luck. Brought it into a shop and they did some work, and apparently it was a relay that was under the dash. They replaced the relay and the car was fine. So it would start, it ran, and it was fine for about a week, and then I started having the same problem again. So I went to the junkyard, I grabbed another relay, put it in, nothing, played around with it, and then it started working again. After some research, I realized it was actually the mount for the relay that it goes in that had some corrosion on it. So I picked up another one of those. It was relatively cheap. It took about 25 minutes to replace, and I had no issues after it. I had no issues with it after that. And we drove the car. The air conditioning was perfect. The ride was smooth, sporty. It was quite a nice ride, and I kept that Jetta for about 1.5 years. And the reason I sold the Jetta was because I actually bought my next car at that point, which was a 2004 Volkswagen Golf GTI VR6. So it was kind of similar to the Jetta. It was a hatchback and it had the VR6 in it, so a lot more power. But before we talk about the Golf, the next video we're going to talk about will be my 2007 Dodge Nitro, which we replaced the Saturn with. But going back to the Jetta, before we sold it, we actually drove quite a bit in that Jetta, especially during the winter when mentioned in the last video with the Saturn. We had the Jetta at the same time, and I expected the Saturn to be the winter car, but it was quite bad, and the Jetta was actually an amazing car in the snow. So I never had any worries that I'd get stuck, I'd go through anything. Snowstorms, doesn't matter, blizzards, it performed like a champ. I never felt unconfident. I always felt that I was going to go where I wanted the car to go, so it was quite nice for winter driving as well, as long as you have a nice set of winter tires. And the Saturn View had the winter tires, but it was useless. Anyhow, guys, that's the story of my Jetta that I bought for $1,800, and I spent some money on maintenance. There was a couple issues there with that relay and the board, and finally ended up selling that Jetta for a price of, if I remember correctly, it was $3,600. And just the other day I found out that same car is actually for sale here local. It's got 280,000 kilometers on it, and the person's asking $1,500. So whoever bought it did put the car to quite a bit of good use, and I'm glad to see that the car is still on the road and still functional. Anyhow, have yourself a good day. If you liked the video, please feel free to like it, subscribe, and come back to see more. Thank you, guys. Cheers.